We've gone through all the light games. We've gone through all the lightweight, medium games. But now we are talking about nothing but the best and heaviest, crunchiest games of all time.
What's up, everybody? My name is Nick.
I'm Mike.
We are the Brothers Murph, and that's right. Today we're talking about the heavyweight games. We've been going through a little series. It's the conclusion to our little 4-part series.
Absolutely.
Where we have been going through the BGG rating system. So 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and now 4 to 5. So games that are ranked 4 to 5 in terms of complexity and heaviness.
Yep.
So these are the heavy games.
The games that people consider to be the most complicated and complex and stuff that really use up all that brain power. We're going to talk about our 10 personal favorites that exist within this 4 to 5 range.
That's right.
And these, again, are what people have decided the complexity is by the users of Board Game Geek. So you can go in and say, hey, I think this game is 2, you know, a 2.5 or whatever, and
Super
change these things. For these heavy games, you can say it's a 1 if you want. But that's how these kind of ratings get collected, is by the user. So let's hop right into it. All right, first up is Sankore, the Pride of Mansa Musa. This is a really crunchy, chunky game with a lot of shared infrastructure where you are in Timbuktu and you're running a university. You are all teachers and you are kind of taking students through classes as you focus in astronomy, law, theology, and mathematics. This is like early pursuits of knowledge, and you are kind of trying to make sure you're investing in the things that are going to be valuable. And this for us is like where this game becomes really fun, because at the start of the game, nothing is actually worth anything. You're going to be leveling things up throughout the game as you take these actions and ultimately gain books, which is you kind of, putting this knowledge down into writing to be able to pass it on. And you're taking these different colored books that pertain to those 4 areas of the school and put them into this library. And at the end of the game, the majorities for each of the rows in the library, so if theology has the most books in this row, is going to increase the value for these different tokens you collect for theology. So you're trying to invest in certain areas, build up, take kind of stronger and stronger actions, but hopefully in areas that are going to be worth as much as possible. And if you see that, like, mathematics, everyone's doing mathematics, that's taking over the library, that's the focus of this school now, how do you then kind of pivot and get into collecting stuff for mathematics, because the thing that you've been kind of working toward this game is not actually going to be worth as much as you were hoping for. So that, I think, adds a lot of the complexity to the game. The idea that, like, what is valuable, the shared infrastructure where the more players across the table, the whole table, invest in a certain area, the better the actions become for everybody, because the idea is that you have more students who are studying this, the knowledge base of astronomy or whatever is growing. And I think that's a really cool thing, that you really kind of need to pay attention to what people are doing, what's going on the board, and again, what is actually worth points at the end of the game, so you can make sure to capitalize on that.
Our number 9 is going to be Burncycle. This is, I definitely think that Mike and I, particularly me, like this game, maybe more than a lot of other people, but I really, really like Burncycle. Burncycle is a big chip theory game who makes things like Too Many Bones, Cloudspire, a whole bunch of different other stuff. The new Elder Scrolls game, which is very, very fun as well. But I've always had a really big soft spot in my heart for Burncycle. Burncycle is a game where you are a bunch of robots and you are essentially staging an uprising, but instead of like kind of like an iRobot, like violent uprising, you don't really have any power in this world because you're robots in these various corporations, but you're just like janitor robots. You're not like cool, like type of robots. And on top of that, the humans who are like your human overlords, they have like big mechs and they're like tapped into the network with all these neurons and stuff like that. So you're very much at a disadvantage. So this game is a heist game as opposed to like a big old shoot 'em up battle game, which I think is a huge boon to the game. I feel like in this kind of game, the natural like feeling would be like, oh, let's make it a big, where like you're fighting off the humans, you're fighting off your oppressors. But in this case, you kind of can't. I think the fact that it's a heist game makes it way more interesting. It also makes it very different from a lot of chip theory games. A lot of chip theory games like Hoplomachus, the new Elder Scrolls game, Too Many Bones, they share a lot of DNA amongst them. Like the kind of battles work similarly, all that kind of stuff. Burncycle is really different. Every time you're playing, you're going to choose a scenario in one of the 3 corporations, and that's going to kind of a mission. Each corporation has a different setup, and there's different floors to the game. So when you kind of complete one part of the mission, you'll then move to like the second floor of the corporation, and you're doing all different kinds of missions. You're maybe trying to like break into the CEO's office and access the terminal in there to do this thing, and then you go to the second floor, and you're trying to like sneak over here and do this. But as you're doing this, all of these guards are essentially patrolling around the grounds, and you're trying to avoid them. You can fight them, like you can go and like punch them. It's generally not advised to do that because, again, you're not very good at that, and you're going to cause a lot of suspicion. So in this game, you are sneaking around. As you're sneaking around, you have an awareness chip. If you come within the awareness of one of these enemies, they'll become aware of you, and they'll basically start kind of like pursuing you and things like that. And so you're hiding a lot, trying to sneak around, unlock doors, go in, access these different things. And I just think it's really, really fun. I really, really like this game. I would say I almost even prefer this game solo as opposed to anything else because it's just nice to be able to get into that puzzle alone and just really start trying to like suss out how it works. I really, really, really like Burncycle. The theme is so fun. I think the game itself is really, really fun. It's a banger.
Next up is Tawantinsuyu. This is our favorite Board&Dice game. We really like Board&Dice in general, but this one is, or when I say Board&Dice, I say our favorite of the, what they call T games. There's a bunch of games that start with the letter T. This is our favorite of the T series of games. Tawantinsuyu is a big worker placement game that has this crazy looking board that has all these symbols and actions and stuff. And you're gonna be placing your workers into parts of this board by matching symbols and playing cards, these kind of god cards. You need to match a symbol which gives you access to this particular shape. And you can go down and then you can do the actions that are surrounding your worker. And different things that you do will dictate how many of the actions around your worker you can take. And you are doing things like gaining resources, building buildings which will give you, passive effects or kind of triggerable abilities. You are working up these kind of temple tracks. You're going out and doing kind of conquest in neighboring regions and all of these things. I just really enjoy the menu, I suppose, of options that are available to you. It really looks like there's a lot going on, but in each, turn, you're only really on kind of one part of the board. So it does actually give you some focus, and when and how you move around the board can kind of change what's available to you, what strategies you use, as you do all these different things in kind of a big point salad game. We just really enjoy the way it all kind of plays out, dealing with this massive board. It's just something that brings us a lot of joy.
Number 7 is actually a very new game, and big shout out to Aldi, who owns Board Game Geek, because he's the one who taught it to us, and this is going to be Civolution. We're really, really into Civolution right now. Civolution is really good, y'all. I really, really enjoy it. We got this game after Essen, obviously, because it came out in Essen. We got this game probably at the first time we played this was at BGG Fall. We played it with Aldi. Since then, we've played it 4 more times, which for us is a lot. We don't get, because this is our job, we don't get to actually repeat games a lot. We've played it 4 separate times because we like it so much. I've soloed it a couple times. It's just so good. This is a very big Stefan Feld game where you were kind of like deities, and you are just kind of controlling the world, and you are making tribes, and you're basically having them go out and explore. You're kind of just like in your own little sandbox, messing with this world, creating a world, seeing kind of what happens, which is a really fun theme and kind of a fun take on like a civilization type of game. But this is a game that's got a little bit of Castles of Burgundy DNA because you're going to be rolling dice, and those dice are going to kind of dictate what actions you can do to some degree. You can use focus, which is kind of like workers in Castles of Burgundy, to manipulate your dice to kind of get what you need. But basically, you're going to be taking 2 dice and combining them together. So if you combine like a 6 and a 4, there is an action that relates to 6 and 4. If you combine like a 4 and a 3, there's an action that relates to that. So you're combining these 2 dice like that, and then doing the action that corresponds with them. And there are tons of different actions. There are, I'm not going to try and count, I don't know, like 25 or 30 of them. And they're basically going to allow you to move around the map. They're going to allow you to procreate and make more tribes people. They're going to allow you to explore. They're going to allow you to plan and do all these different things and hunt and keep your people fed. All this different kind of like general civilization stuff. But at the same time, you're also getting these cards and playing these cards, which are going to be essentially kind of like different parts of your civilization. Gosh, I keep trying to say Civolution, which is the name of the game. So one of them is like evolution. So like, oh, my people now have beaks. Now my people have wings. And those cards are going to give you bonuses, maybe some ongoing powers. But you're also like building cards. Like, oh, now my people have this kind of building. Now my people have this. It's just really, really cool. This is a very big sandbox. You can kind of go in any direction you want. And that's kind of tough in the very beginning because there's not necessarily a clear direction. But I would say like just pick something and start doing that and kind of just see what happens. This game is very, very much a Feast for Odin for us, where like every time I play Feast for Odin, I just pick something and go. I'm like, you know what, this time I'm gonna do a lot of this. I'm gonna hunt a bunch and just see what happens. I just kind of like pick a direction and go and see what happens. That's very much Civolution for us, and I really, really, really like it. Big shout out to Aldi.
I've already mentioned Board&Dice once on this list. The next one is Nucleum. So Nucleum is a really fantastic game. We actually just played it the other day, so it's fresh in our mind. This is a game where you are trying to build and bring nuclear energy to different parts of Germany, kind of in the initial rise of nuclear power. So you are all working on this board, and again, there's kind of a shared infrastructure where you are trying to build your buildings into certain cities. You are then trying to build out railway networks using your action tokens can be flipped over into rails to be able to get access to the power plants. You want to find mines so you can produce uranium. Then you need to get the uranium to the power plant, and then the electricity from the power plant to your buildings to flip them over. So there's all these kind of little things that are coming together, but it's nice because if someone else builds a railway, I can then use it to move my things around and stuff like that. So everyone kind of benefits as the map gets built out. And of course, you want to make sure that you are benefiting the most in this game. And I think the reason that we enjoy this so much, and probably that's a theme across this whole list, is that yes, Nucleum is a big, heavy game. There's a lot of things to consider. Everyone's jockeying for position. But the actions themselves, when you go to take a normal turn, you're placing one of your action tiles, they're really simple. It might be like gain a contract. It's like, okay, look at the little 4, stacks of contracts, choose one. You can gain more of those action tiles, so the develop action. You can put out a building. The costs for those are really well listed and everything's very clear. So it is something that breaks down into very small, understandable pieces. And you're going to be taking these turns to stack up ultimately a really big experience.
Number 5 is going to be Scholars of the South Tigris. This is in the South Tigris series. The last list we did, the light heavyweight one, Wayfarers of the South Tigris is in there because that game is a little bit lighter, and Scholars is definitely heavier. I think it's not the heaviest. Invented South Tigris, I can't remember exactly where it was, but I believe it's even heavier than Scholars. But Scholars of South Tigris is really, really cool. We played this game again recently, and I was like, oh, that's right. I really, really like this game. This is a game where you're in Baghdad, and the South Tigris games are all about the search for knowledge, because Baghdad was this really big central hub of knowledge. They had huge libraries, all of these scrolls, and that's what Scholars of the South Tigris is specifically about. Because basically what's going to be happening is you can go around the board and kind of travel around and gather these various scrolls and bring them into the houses of wisdom. The problem is these scrolls aren't in Arabic, right? Here we speak Arabic, and so you need to translate them into Arabic. And so you can employ these various translators. These translators will speak either 2 or 3 languages, and then when you go to translate one of these scrolls, you will pay various translators to translate it into Arabic so that the people here can read it. It's a really, really cool theme that I like a lot. And the translation part is really interesting because you're like, okay, this scroll is in Chinese, right? It's a mathematics scroll that's in Chinese. Okay, we need to get that into Arabic. So I can use this translator who can speak Chinese and Greek, and so it'll basically translate from Chinese to Greek, and then I can pay this person to go from Greek to Syriac, and then I can pay this person to go from Syriac to Arabic, and then boom, we're good to go. And so in that case, you have to have gold to pay all these people to kind of do this chain to get this into Arabic, and then you get to take that scroll, which will usually give you some bumps up some different tracks and some end game points. It's really, really cool. It has a lot of shared infrastructure, which I really like in games where just because I'm the one who went and traveled and found this scroll and put it in the House of Wisdom, I then don't get to like claim it. Mike can then be the one that translates it. And I kind of like that kind of shared infrastructure where it's not necessarily negative. It's not always positive, but it's kind of like just messing around and kind of getting each other's way. And that, I don't know, it's a kind of stickiness I like in games basically. But it's just really, really cool. And you're bumping tracks and you're getting income as you rest. It's just so, so good. I really, really love the theme of this game and the theme of all three of the games in the South Tigris series. I love that kind of pursuit of knowledge. But this one with the translating of the scrolls, I don't know, for some reason it really sings to me. I love to see like, kind of like that togetherness where like, hey, like let's all come together and bring these scrolls over here and let's translate them back into Arabic. I think it's just really, really cool. And so I really, really like it. Scholars of South Tigris. Yep, that's it.
All right, next up is Spirit Island. Spirit Island is, a game that we're both, we're recently to the party. It's been around for a while, been really loved for a while. We played this first back kind of near when it came out, and it was much too heavy for us at that time. It really kind of melted our brain to kind of try to understand the sequence of things and be able to, overcome these invaders and stuff that are coming for you. So in this game, you are inhabiting kind of the role of spirits. On an island, you're trying to protect the native people, the Dahan, and there's these invading forces that are coming and building buildings and cities and stuff, and you're trying to take care of this space and stuff by removing their pieces, tearing down their cities and stuff, and producing fear ultimately, which gives you these really powerful kind of moments throughout the game. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it where you're, adding more and more fear as these, scary things are happening in the night essentially. And it's a cooperative game. So you can really kind of synergize your abilities and bounce back and forth. Every spirit is uniquely different. Some are more, offensive and they're gonna be moving things around and taking pieces off the board. Other ones are much more, in support of the other spirits. And I think that's why this game has, so long of legs. Like, people have been playing this and solo it and play it and explore with it for a long time because there's so much there to mine, because each spirit is different. They have different cards and stuff and different abilities, and you can tailor your strategy based on that with the new cards you collect and things like that. So this is one that we're, relatively new at, probably not very good at, but it's now a game that we can understand. We can kind of understand the sequence because the invaders are sort of telegraphing what they're going to be doing next. And now we have, enough kind of know-how with games to try to counter and plan for what these invaders are going to do. So it's a really fun, really rewarding experience.
Our number 3 is going to be War of the Ring. This is Lord of the Rings in a box. I love, love, love this game. And this is kind of a departure for me because this is a big war game. I'm actually not a big war gamer really at all. Actually, I don't like any war games, but I like this one because I love Lord of the Rings. If you haven't seen us talk about many games, you know that we'll love Lord of the Rings because we talk about them a lot. I really, really like War of the Ring. War of the Ring is like a once every year and a half type of game for me, but it goes to show that you don't have to play a game often for it to still be one of your favorites and for it to be really impactful on you. And War of the Ring is definitely that for me. This is a game, it's a 2-player game where one side will take the Shadow Army and one side will take the Free Peoples. So it's like, Sauron and Isengard and the Easterlings versus like the elves, dwarves, men, hobbits, all those people. And the Shadow Army is basically either trying to corrupt the ring bearers or take over enough territory where they essentially are going to win through that. And then the Free Peoples are either trying to destroy the ring or take over enough territory to essentially kind of like distract the player and then win. It's much, much harder for the Free People to win a military victory, but you can do it. It's much, much easier for the Shadow Army to do that, but they also have to get 10 points to win, whereas the Free People only have to get 4 points to win in a military victory, but it's also really hard for the Free People to do that. But most of you are trying to destroy the ring. So this is kind of a little bit of it's like a big battle game, but also a bit of a cat and mouse game because the Shadow Army is always hunting for the ring, and the ring bearers are slowly making their way to Mordor, more or less in secret, although they can be found occasionally. They're trying to get on the Crowks of Mount Doom, slowly move up the track while getting corrupted the whole way, and then hopefully chucking the ring in there. The cool thing about this game is this game allows you to tell essentially a new version of Lord of the Rings trilogy, because you can kind of do whatever you want. The Fellowship starts off as the 9 people in the Fellowship, but you can break it up kind of however you want. Boromir does not have to die right past the Pillars of Argonath. They can die whenever or not at all. You can have it where the people who go to Mount Doom is Merry, Pippin, Boromir, Sam, and Frodo, and everyone else doesn't go there. You can have it like that, or you can have it where it's just the ring bearers and Gollum, or it could be like Aragorn goes, or Gandalf goes with them. You can send Boromir to the Shire to defend against, the Witch King of Angmar up in Angmar. You can have Gimli go to Lothlorien, and Legolas go down to, I don't know, Minas Tirith. I don't know, you can do whatever you want. But that's what's really, really fun about it, is you get to tell your own version of this story in this world. It's just really, really fun. I love it. I love the stories you get out of this game. War of the Ring is an absolute classic.
All right, next up is Gaia Project. Gaia Project is both of our personal favorite in the whole Terra Mystica line of games now. There's quite a few of them. And we they're all so great, but Gaia Project is really just fantastic. I think for us, it comes down to a couple of changes with like having multiple technology tracks and stuff like that. But in this game, and all the Terra Mystica games, you are a faction that has a home, terrain type, or in this case of Gaia Project, a planet type. And that's the only place you can live. You can only live on planets that are friendly to you and the air you breathe. So you are going to be kind of expanding and exploring the board and putting out your different buildings and stuff. But if it's a planet type that is not yours, you must first terraform that planet to be able to put down your initial piece, and then you can upgrade your buildings and kind of build out from there. So this game and these games, I should say, I think are just very delicious in that it is all about trying to eke out as much as you can out of your game. You know kind of what things are going to be valuable, what goals are scoring at the end of the game, what goals are scoring each round, all of that, and the board layout before you choose your faction. So based on all these factors and based on which planets are next to what faction am I going to choose that's hopefully going to be the most, able to get out on the board and expand and explore. And then as you're building your buildings, you're revealing different types of income. It might be your ore, it might be your money. And as you upgrade a building, if I upgrade to a trading post, I am actually losing sometimes certain other income. So the balance of that, of like, how do I make sure I have the right resources at the right times? There's these 6 technology tracks. They're all imperative. They're all so nice and important to go up. You definitely aren't going to be able to go up all of them. So which ones do I choose? Which ones do I focus on? And how does that then change my strategy for this game? There's so much fun stuff to explore. There's so much. Every single game is engaging and interesting and stressful in a good way, crunchy, whatever you want to call it. It tickles the brain in a really nice way and just keeps us coming back.
Our number 1 is going to be Kanban EV. We have turned into Lacerda people for the most part. We really, really like Vital Lacerda games. Took us a while to get there, I'm not gonna lie. We had tried a couple of their games in the past, didn't dislike them, but weren't like in love with them. I think we just needed to get slightly heavier into our likes to really start to appreciate Vital Lacerda games. And we really love Kanban EV was what I was trying to say. Absolutely adore it. This is a game where you are working in a factory. And that factory is a car factory. You are building electronic cars, EVs. And both Mike and I have this weird, maybe it's because we watched How It's Made a lot growing up, right? How It's Made is such a banger of a show. I really like factories. I just think they're fascinating that like we've made these machines that make these things very, very efficiently. I love the concept of all these machines that are big, complex machines that do one thing, but they do it really, really well. So I like factories as a theme. And in Kanban, you are building cars. So you have to get like plans for a car, like what you want the car to like look like. You can go over here and get various parts for the car. You can go over here and you can assemble and build the car. And then you can go over here and take the cars and test drive them. And then those cars are kind of finished. This game, like a lot of Lacerda games, has a pretty linear way of working. It makes sense what you're doing, kind of in the order you're doing it. But it's also like a worker placement game where you're gonna be moving your worker kind of from like action to action, doing what you want. It's just really, really good. Everything, it's got this kind of like stark white, like clean factory look. The components are great. And I don't know, there's just something about this game that just moves so smoothly and just works so well while being kind of a crunchy experience. It's just really, really good. I love Kanban EV. We love a lot of Lacerda games, pretty much all of them at this point, but Kanban EV is still our favorite. We really, really adore it. And I'm excited to keep on playing it because it's just so darn good. We love it. So that was our top 10 heavy games.
So good.
Indeed. So down in the comments, let us know what are some big heavyweight games that you like, games that we missed.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of games we're kind of like, oh, we're not super heavy gamers. So are we going to have a top 10? It's like, oh, you know, we like a lot of the tons of games in this list.
I think as time has gone, we have leaned further in that direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Certainly when we started.
So make sure to let us know down in the comments below. And until next time, that's the end of the kind of weight series.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed that.
Fun.
Put your favorite heaviest games or heaviest to you games in the comments below, and we'll catch y'all real soon.